Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Nicholas Samstag in another edition of Mental Health and Business. It's my privilege today to have Laura Ann Bell with me, who's an accomplished entrepreneur and personal brander, if that's if that's the right way of saying that. And she and I are going to be talking about the ins and outs of what it means to be an entrepreneur and marketing and how to stay real in an increasingly unreal age. Welcome, Laura.
Ooh, I like that. Thank you so much. How to stay real in an unreal age is a really hot topic right now. So that's a good one.
Yeah, I think I have had too much education, and one of the things that I think about often now is the play within the play in Hamlet, where where Shakespeare put a play within that play, so that Hamlet could detect whether or not his uncle was guilty of murdering his father. Right, which is one of the first examples in Western culture of art being more real than life. Right. So that's, I think, in a way where we are with this, with your version of personal branding, which is that paradoxically, what used to sell was artifice, and now what's selling is genuineness. But then when you start talking about selling something genuine, you kind of get twisted up in your underwear because you're just sort of wondering, like, what does that even mean? So
hmm Yeah, and
that's what.
people think of sales as so icky and such a gross part of being in business. A lot of people avoid it. They just want to hire a salesperson so they don't have to deal with it. But I don't believe it has to be that way at all.
So tell us how that came about, because I have a my father was a famous advertising guy, and before I went into shrink school, I dabbled in it. And the whole premise behind marketing and selling is that you create the appearance of need where there isn't any. How did you go from the cynical to the real?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I'll tell you a little bit of my origin story, so I think you can kind of start to understand the dots, right? That you connect backwards, as Steve Jobs once said. Um, I started visual communications in university because I was an artist and I love art, and but I also wanted to, have a career and make some money. So I figured graphic design is a great way to do art and also, be able to make money. And right out of university, I got hired for a newspaper. And it was the most incredible experience. I think the best place to start any career is working for a newspaper because talk about being in the thick of it. The speed, the way everything happens, and you just had to move really quickly. And I rose up to becoming the arts editor for that newspaper for many years. And I loved the job. So I did a lot of advertising for the newspaper, of course, because that's where back then anybody put any ad was in advertising in newspapers and magazines, because those were the platforms that existed, and TV, right? We didn't have social media like we do now. So I learned the backside of it and how to, create pretty ads for people to sell things. And then I worked for a magazine after that for a number of years, which was a dream job, and I loved it. And then that was a much higher level of prestige because being in a magazine. And then after that, I was made redundant suddenly, and I was pregnant with my daughter. And that's where entrepreneurship entered my life because I realized I had the skill of creating advertising for people, and I could then just get my own clients and build my own business. So that's kind of what led me to do what I do now. And since COVID, which was a real pivotal time for me, I had started a new business with a business partner of mine. We were going to do employee or branding. So that's working internally in a big business to help them brand business inside the business. So with their own employees and that sort of thing. And then COVID hit and everybody went straight home and no one was in an office anymore. And we were like, well, that's not going to work. So what's plan B? And the big gap we found really quickly was the number of entrepreneurs, small business owners that were struggling to get online because everybody was all of a sudden doing everything online. Their stores were closed, their offices were closed, and everyone was just trying to figure out, how do we advertise? How do we communicate? How do we survive, right, in this time? So they were desperate. And we started creating webinars and workshops and helping people get online, get websites up. I'm talking big retail stores didn't have e-commerce websites to sell
Wow.
anything. So people were in this panic,
Yeah.
and we were just, okay, we know what we know. We were both in marketing. Like, I come from the design side, she comes from communication. So the two of us were just, how do we help? And the demand for that was so high that it blew our minds.
Hmm.
So through all of that, we started dealing with more and more entrepreneurs, more and more small business owners, more and more founders, and really started understanding where the limitations of their beliefs of advertising were. And so many people wanted to hide behind their brand. They just wanted to post an ad of, their product and sell it, and that got increasingly more and more difficult when social media exploded, which it has done over the last 5 years. And people don't want to buy from brands. They don't connect with brands before they connect with people. Now, there's certain status brands that I would say, probably are exclusive of that. And people buy those brands because they're status items, right? More than anything. But when it comes to service based, especially, you can't hide behind your own service. Like people want to know who they're dealing with
Hmm.
and why they should choose you over somebody else. And I think that comes down to everybody, including like plumbers, like the most basic of services. People want to know who they're dealing with
Right.
because they're trusting them with their money, their time, their whatever they're creating themselves. So they need to trust their service providers. And so they want to deal with people. So all that said, it's about the people who can authentically share who they are online that people connect with first. And those are the ones who I've seen rise as experts in their field
Hmm.
and seen their success explode since COVID. So,
It's it's so fascinating from a psychological standpoint because what you're describing is that we could call it a conflation between personal and professional, right? So that the I mean professional, the definition is that someone who charges a fee for an acknowledged service, right? Which is has been distinct from personal. But now we see is it I guess this is a question. Is it a conflation or is it a melding? It seems like, it's a melding if done well. You know,
mm, yeah.
and I think there's just such interesting contradictions here. I mean, you know, do you want your, do you want your epidemiologist to be like personal and up close? I mean, probably not. You probably would value a certain kind of boundary there. But then there are other situations where, yeah, that's really, really interesting to me. So are you involved in the writing and creating of ads and marketing, or do you supervise mostly?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in the creation from very early on, because I was able to skill stack through all my jobs that I've had in the past. I talked about like being able to write and to design, which is kind of a rare thing to I think have both. Most people either do one or the other, but having both has kind of given me a little bit of an edge, I think, and also understanding marketing as a bigger whole because marketing is sort of the umbrella for all the things. So that includes your PR, that includes your advertising, it includes all the other bits that are part of it, including like the thought leadership part. So if you are a thought leader in your field, in your niche, how do you share that? How that's showing up on podcasts, that's getting on the news, that's all the other pieces that come along with it. It's all under the big umbrella of marketing. So I've been able to be involved in all the aspects, which is why I love to try to help people understand that big picture, and advertising is really a small part of it all.
Hmm.
There's so much more. And I like to say to people, if they're questioning like, oh, I don't want to be the face of my brands and I just want my brand to stand out for itself. If you look at, Richard Branson and the number of followers he personally has as compared to the number of followers Virgin has, you see a stark difference. People are
Hmm.
interested in the man, but will buy from the business,
Hmm.
because they're interested in the man. I think there's a little bit too, like, our relation to celebrities and influencers that we are fascinated by them. We want to get close to them. So when an influencer or a celebrity is carrying a certain purse, everybody wants to buy that purse, because they feel like it's that bit closer to that person that they admire for whatever reason. And that's why influencers work. That's why celebrities make so much money. You want to watch the movie because you love the celebrity, right? They're the pull, they're the draw. So that's why I think being the face of your business is important because it helps you become the draw in. You become the magnet to your
Hmm.
services. If people like you, know you, trust you, they're more likely to buy from you than your competitor that maybe is. face this part of their brand.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I just want to ask this question, ask this question again, though. What are the commodities that are most suited to this, and what are the commodities that clearly aren't?
Mm, I really, that's really kind of, I think everything can be suited to it in a way, because I really believe people buy from people rather than just buy. Well, there definitely people just buy stuff. Absolutely. Sometimes we just need stuff and you just buy stuff. And a lot of it will depend on your own personal economic status and what is important to you. Some people, it's really important to them to show status, so they're going to buy the Louis Vuitton bag versus, the cheap Walmart knockoff, right? Because to them, that's important. The status is important. So there's lots of levels to it. I think it's easier seen in service-based things, because when it comes down to services, it's often a person that does the service. And when there's a sea of competitors, who's standing out is going to be the one who is most well known. And
Mm,
they're going to be more likely able to charge higher prices. So the coach that's known to coach VIPs are going to get more VIPs, are going to get more people willing to pay more money because of, how they raise themselves in status. So I think a lot of it's status related. Actually, now that I'm talking it out, it's kind of coming clear that it depends on what game you want to play and what field you want to, play in.
mm, mm, mm. I'm sure that there are people, and probably broken out by SES, that really don't want any of this. They want the thing, and they want it to work, and they have better things to do. Right.
Yeah, of course
Right.
there are. And we hear from those people all the time. They come to us all the time. No, 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 I don't want to be the face. And we have to tell them, like, that's a comfort zone you have to expand for yourself, because of social media now. There is an expectation to show up, and people can spot fakes. AI is making it harder because there's more fakes, so it's harder and people are less trusting. So you have to give them reason to trust you. How do you do that? You've got to show up and you've got to be authentic and real, and you've got to talk about your business, your story, your why. Why should people buy from you rather than somebody else? Why should they care about what you sell? Why is your service better than anyone else? How do you explain your prices, your
Yeah.
value to other people? If you're not showing up authentically, people don't get it. And they probably will just go find the one that is. I think social media is tricky space and a constantly changing space for a lot of people. I think that's where most people like back off and want no part of it, because it feels inauthentic. I mean, you hear stories of people that fake it and, Facetune and all this stuff. So you're like, what is real? What is it? What do I trust? What don't I? That's why video has definitely exceeded everything else in terms of growth, because it feels more trustworthy. Somebody talking for 3 minutes is a lot harder to fake than a photo that somebody could easily Photoshop, right? But podcasting again is a next level up, because that's a more authentic version, because you're talking
Yeah.
for a significant longer amount of time. It's a lot harder to fake that. A lot of people will say that that's the reason Donald Trump became president, was because he had 100 hours of podcast, whereas Kamala Harris only had 30. Right. So that difference was pretty big. He talked for 100 hours. People had all of that content to consume and build a level of belief, trust in whatever he had to say. It had a lot of impact. And they say podcasting was a big part of the election this year,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
last year. And I think it's important to note that's what people are looking for. They're trying to find authenticity, like you said earlier, in this increasingly, less authentic world.
Yeah. Back to Shakespeare and Hamlet. I mean, are we? Are you teaching? I'm asking this question, understanding that it's provocative, but Are you in the business of sophistry, where you trick people into thinking that this is real because you recognized that that the appearance of genuineness sells? A, or B, it's probably a combination. Or B, are you actually getting people to be real with their stuff?
It's a good question. And honestly, you can only lead a horse to water, right? You can't make anybody be really totally 100% authentic and genuine because most people, no matter what, are going to want to show up as their best self, right? The same as you would on a date or in anything that you feel is really important, you're going to put your best face forward. You're going to put on a little extra makeup and do your hair and, use your best practice lines. And so nothing is going to be 100% raw unless you have someone following you around with a camera 24/7, right? So, and I think that's okay. I don't think we have to, go to a place where we're so gritty that it might actually turn people off. But I think fake eventually gets found out. And I think some people can fake it really well for a long time. But when people are just real and authentic and they're driven by purpose, that comes through. I think when you can share your purpose and share your mission and tell your story, even the awkward, uncomfortable, parts of your story, when you get good at sharing that, that is what's real. And I think if you're talking your story over and over again and it's fake, people are going to find out. I think in this day and age, I think it's going to be easier to find out fakes. I think AI is going to make it easier to find out fakes because you can be able to analyze, if somebody is on multiple podcasts, if their stories are inconsistent, I think it's going to end up coming through, right? So that's a good news. Of course, I do believe like you're going to get mostly polished versions of anybody, of anything, of any business. You're going to see the best. I mean, you look back at old ads and if you ever watch the like how they film how a burger is being, created for an ad, most of it's fake, right? Like, and you just kind of know, they make ice cream out of mashed potatoes, right? There's lots of tricks that people have always used to make things the best possible version, to make it the most appealing, the most beautiful, the most whatever. Um, but I think we've also seen just a move towards wanting more authenticity, a greater call for greater representation of people within advertising, within marketing, which is why I think if the founder is the one sharing,
Mhm.
I think that's where real authenticity is coming from because they're sharing their why, their passion. Entrepreneurs start a business because they're passionate. They've seen a gap. They've had a personal, relationship with something. They've created something out of their own need or something they've seen or a problem they really want to fix in this world. And I think that is so attractive to buyers or, consumers because I want to get on board with that mission. I'm willing to spend more. I'm willing to give more of my time, my energy to something I believe in versus something, that's, fluffy, right? That's not
Mhm.
quite real. That's not quite authentic.
Mhm, mhm. Ah, that's so cool, right. So one of the paradoxes then, I guess, is that this is no news to you, there are such different ways of selling. I mean, selling is such a dirty word, right? Nobody wants to sell anything. But I guess to your point, if the person has some more than a modicum of genuineness, it's more appealing and less like a sell. It's more like a invitation. It's more like, hey, I make these great pies, and my grandmother made them, and now I make them, and I get up every morning and blah 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 blah. And you look, you say, wow, this guy's cool. I think I'll buy his pie.
It's exactly right. That's so exactly right. And that's where a big shift in marketing, I think, is moving towards and has for the last few years, especially. But yeah, we want to connect.
Yeah.
I think COVID disrupted connection so much. I think often we in the past would buy things because somebody else had it, right? You saw your friend with this backpack and you wanted that backpack when you were a teenager at school, right? You saw this, so you wanted that. And it was just because we were all together all the time. But when that was severed and we were so separated for so long, I think the way we connected changed and we looked for how do we connect online because that became our new reality. I mean, I don't even know if we'd be on this podcast today if it hadn't happened the way it did, right?
Right.
I think it
Right.
exploded these opportunities to talk beyond borders, to be in two different countries and to have a conversation is incredible, really,
Right.
and would have been very unusual, 6 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And right. And social media and the availability of all this can be used for good and for ill.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So Lead us through your perfect day or like the best day for you, given all of this. What do you like doing most?
Oh, what a good question. Well, I have two kids, and I'm a single mom. So my day revolves around fitting work in between kid stuff. I think
How old are they?
my son is 16. He's an entrepreneur himself. So he adds a whole lot to my plate. And then my daughter's 12 and she's a dancer. So she's very busy. We dance almost every day of the week after school. So my mornings involve racing them off to school and getting that. And then usually a few hours with my business partner who's in Brisbane, Australia. So yeah, her mornings are my nights and vice versa. So we have a few hours to get together. We talking strategy most of the time. We love everything to do with strategy. And then after that, it's a couple of work hours, try to get some breaks in between. And then it's picking kids up and running them around and doing what they need to get done in the afternoons. It's lots of fun. And that's when I connect with, friends and stuff as well. And then dinner, bath, bed. That's a usual day. That's a usual day. Now, if it didn't involve work, it would certainly involve a beach. I'm lucky to live in Bermuda. I am very blessed. And about 5 minutes from my house is one of the most beautiful beaches you can ever imagine with
Oh,
perfect pinkish white sands and the most turquoise, beautiful waters. It's so peaceful. It's right on the edge of a nature reserve. So it's not even traffic there. It's just
oh, that sounds
pristine.
amazing. I told you my recent trip to Bermuda with my daughter. Just, I was staggered by the beauty of the water. It just didn't look real. It just looked so. What's that color? I mean, is it cerulean blue? It was just some kind of like weird ass beautiful blue.
It is. It feels almost unreal. And wherever you look at it, because we're just this island in the middle of the Atlantic and a few yards offshore on the south shore is a reef line, and then we're on top of a volcano, right? So it just drops off to the abyss on one side. The other side, it goes out a lot further. So one side is turquoise, like you said, that cerulean blue that's just absolutely stunning. And then the other side is like that, sort of more deeper blue, right to almost jet black, navy
Uh,
blue. It's just gorgeous. And I love that we have both, one's kind of rough with waves and one is calm and peace. So we're very blessed to have sort of just this incredible space. I have to remind myself all the time, that I live in such an incredible place and not take it for granted. Because you see everything every day. It's kind of like, oh, okay, it's the ocean again.
right.
But yeah, we are very blessed to be here.
That's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Um, what else? What else? What have we missed in this exciting adventure that you're in?
Well, one thing I am very passionate about right now that I would like to share with the audience is I truly believe that all young people should try entrepreneurship. And when I mean young, like 10, 11, 12, into the teen years, because I truly believe that entrepreneurship gives you so many things that you would never learn in school. And most people can't teach you. And especially if, your parents aren't entrepreneurs, that's the best time to try it out. I mean, have that proverbial lemonade stand or sell something or, make jewelry and sell it or anything that you can build a business around. Because if you can learn the skills of business, of marketing, of selling, of speaking, of pitching, of maybe even getting investment, do you have to give your parents a PowerPoint presentation on, the $500 you need to create your business? Why should they invest in your business? Learning that skill so young when there's no risk involved, because that's the thing. One thing I know, most entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs in their 40s and 50s. It's usually their second act. They usually do it after they burned out of corporate or after they're just exhausted from whatever, or they just finally maybe have enough money saved away that they can take a chance and, they've got a year runway to build something. They're just going to go take a chance. It's a lot harder to do when you're older. And that's why most people in sort of midlife don't. They do it sort of in their second act of life. Whereas if you can learn these skills very young, your opportunities for building something later are so much better because you've already taken some risk when there's like still a safety net underneath you. My son is 16. He's an entrepreneur. He's got a full business going and he still has a house. He's got his bills paid. He doesn't have to worry about electricity or food, right? Like I'm handling the important stuff for him and he can just build a business. He can take risks. He can spend all his money down to zero and build it back up again without worrying about payroll,
What's
so
his business?
He is an entrepreneur, I like to say. He has a business called Flow by Nico. Please check it out if you're listening in. Flow by Nico. And he started creating acrylic pour paintings. I could maybe sneak and show you one behind me.
Oh,
One of
yeah.
his original paintings.
Huh.
And he then, over the last year and a half, he's been turning them into everyday products that people would want to own. So, for example, again, so if you're listening, I'll describe it. It's things like notebooks that
Sure.
he will create a painting and then he'll have printed onto a notebook in his style. And he's created a whole bunch of them. He's
Nice.
created phone cases and bags and accessories, and they're just absolutely stunning, super original and cool. And yeah, he's got a Shopify website on the way and he's going to try to sell internet. No, he's not going to. He's going to sell internationally. He's going to grow and build a whole business before he ever goes off to university. And I'm so proud of him. He's turned into such an incredible young man who's confident. He won a pitch competition last year where he had to pitch his business in front of a room of investors,
Wow.
and compete against everyone was way older than him, and he won. It was
Oh, that's great.
incredible. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and just to have that confidence at 16 to stand up in a room full of people and present for 5 minutes on stage without cue cards, like,
Hmm.
inc incredible, absolutely
Right.
incredible. And I've seen that. I've seen that growth in him, and he just slowly, started selling a few paintings, and then he just did a little bit of this, and they did a vendor market, and, it's just
Great.
built lovely over time, and his confidence has grown over time, and, you don't get that in school. Maybe in school you'll do one speech, at some point during your high school career. But, when you get into the real world, if you can talk to people, if you can network, if you can pitch something, that's a huge advantage in life, no matter what you do, whether you go into corporate or, you get, create your own business or whatever. If you can talk to people, if you can network, that's really a big part of everything we talked about building a personal brand, right? It's your network that's going to be really key. There could be your customers, your clients, your partners, your, who knows, employees one day even.
Oh, that's so smart. That's such a smart thing. In my business, we call that agency, right? It's like to help people tap into a sense of agency, which just simply means the capacity to think about something that you want to do and the belief that you can follow through and do it. Um, that's great. I mean, that's wonderful. Yeah, and right, there's no course. I mean, it's kind of like walking. Like no one can teach you how to walk. Like you have to try it.
Yeah, and entrepreneurship is hard. I'm not here to like, say it's for everybody because it's not. There's a lot of risk involved. You have to wear all the hats, especially in the early days when you're just starting out. You've got to be your own accountant and marketing person and HR and, all the things. And you've got to risk your own money or maybe friends and family money or investor money. And these things are difficult. And the older you are, I think the less risk you're willing to take. So it's definitely a big challenge. And a lot of entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs because of a circumstance. Like me, I say I got kicked off the cliff and built the plane on the way
Yeah,
down, you
right,
know,
right.
like I didn't do it so willingly. And I wish I had had some more advice, some more help, some places to go to learn all the other parts of business. Luckily for me, I had the marketing side, right? I could figure out the marketing. That was easy. But I had to figure out how to sell, how to price myself. That's hard. Pricing is hard. Just defining your own value, I think, is one of the hardest
So
things
hard.
as an entrepreneur.
Totally. It's I'll share this with you. I had a couple of careers before I did this. I had too many degrees and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. But one of the things that attracted me to psychology, I mean, to private practice, was the private part of private practice. I thought, holy shit, I could actually be my own boss, you know? And never really having dealt well with the bosses before, I thought maybe I should just be my own boss. Never occurred to me to use that word. But of course, you're in private, you, as you say, you have to be your accountant and your insurance person and on and on and on.
Mhm.
And there's no net. And that's, I think to your point, if you can embrace that as a young person, regardless of what you do, you'll be in better stead because yeah, you're certainly not going to be feel as dependent because you've done it. Yeah, that's great. I love that. I love that. Best Nico, is that his name?
Nico, yes.
Yeah. Best to Nico. Good,
Eh,
good for him.
yeah, super super proud mom here for sure. I
Yeah,
mean,
for
I
sure.
the growth is so incredibly beautiful to watch as a parent, to see your kids just grow and blossom and like agency, like you said, that's such a great term for it. And yeah, to develop that early is gonna be really key. I remember him saying to me only a few months ago, he kind of looked at me one night and he goes, "Do you think I can, like, do this as a job?" Like, it kind of occurred to him, like, "Could I actually just do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, you
Yeah,
absolutely can build this to whatever you want to build it to, and
yeah,
create whatever lifestyle you want to create." And I think just knowing that was, so eye-opening to him, and I think once he had that awareness, I saw full steam ahead. Now he's pushing me, and I'm like, "Okay, all right, what do I need to do? Yeah, okay, all right, I'll get the banking stuff sorted,"
yeah.
No, I joke, I'm like, "I'm the general manager of your business now," you know? Oh, it's good, it's good, it's exciting to see, it really is exciting to watch.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope we do this again. This is great fun. Um, we're gonna sign off, but after we do, don't run away and don't shut your computer off because sometimes
Yeah,
when I guess who do that, things get screwed up. Um,
no problem. Yeah, we
yeah,
host a podcast too, so we know that we know the drill, so absolutely. I just wanna say thank you so much, it's been an absolutely fantastic conversation, and I'm honored to be on your podcast,
oh,
and I
that's fun.
certainly hope we have another conversation and, invite you to come visit me in Bermuda anytime, and yeah, we
Yeah,
can talk more then.
I look forward to that. All
Yeah,
right, Laura,
amazing.
thanks so much. All
Thank you.
right, this is Dr. Nicholas Samstag and Mental Health and Business signing off. See you next time.